So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiance Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing both Season 5, Episode 6 of Happily Ever After, and Season 2, Episode 7 of The Other Way. On Happily Ever After, Asuelo acts like a bigger baby than his child, Syngin drops a rather big bomb on Tanya, Angela goes to Nigeria for the last time as a single woman, Larissa rekindles an old flame, Colt is ready to get busy while Debbie is asleep, and Paul gives us a puberty ed lesson. On The Other Way, it looks like game over for Jihoon, Ariela's mom has many thoughts on Binyam's living quarters, Kenny and Armando are almost together, and Jenny finds out how long an Indian divorce can take. As always, we'll have our Students of the Week, life lessons, and class dunces. We'll be back again next Monday to talk about both episodes, and we'll be back again next week on our other podcast to talk about Love After Lockup, which debuts this Friday. Okay, stay tuned and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
We have a fun announcement.
Yes.
You don't even remember, do you?
I don't remember. Do we have a fun
It
announcement?
has to do with us Williamsing our Instagram account.
Yeah, we did that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we did. We wiped it clean because what we were doing wasn't really working for us, and we weren't being the best at keeping it up, and also we were really not trying to compete with other better meme accounts that are out there.
For sure.
Yeah, so we've just made it as a promotional Instagram for us, which is really what we wanted it for in the first place.
Right.
So if you want to check us out, give us a follow. 90 Day MK 2 M's.
We didn't Williams our account by deleting all of our followers and everything.
No.
So if you followed us before, you still follow us now. So it wasn't a complete Williams.
But if you showed up by chance last week, then you would have noticed that all of our old pictures were gone.
Yeah, the ones you were looking. I'm sure everybody was going back and looking for those. So
Well, they were gems, so
Uh-huh.
why wouldn't they?
that's right. That's right.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started with Happily Ever After, which was on Sunday, yesterday.
I'll go ahead and start. I will start with Paul and Karini. So we are back at the hotel after the car fiasco from last episode. Karini is clearly upset that Paul doesn't have better things in America, and Paul is disappointed that Karini feels let down. He tries to make things better by being as annoying as possible and getting in the way when she's changing Pierre's diaper, even pointing out the poop on his balls. Paul is hoping that the family can make it to dinner with his mother, Mary. The plan is to use Pierre and Karini to milk some more money out of Mary. But Karini is pretty done and tells Paul that he needs to go alone. So Paul shows up to dinner solo, and Mary immediately says that she wouldn't have agreed to come if she knew that. Wow, just feeling that mother-son love. Dinner gets started, and that's when he asks for help. She says she's always available to babysit, but she's not giving him any money. Paul tries to guilt trip her by saying that he knows he messed up in the past and he didn't do it in the future and it's just temporary. But, right now it's his son, it's Pierre. He's the one that needs the money. This doesn't land like he wants it to, and Mary just resents the guilt trip, and she sticks to her no. So then for his next attempt to impress Karini with America, he takes her to just a regular old supermarket and walks around the place acting like it's Disneyland. Look at these onions. Can you believe how many types of apples there are? Karini is less than impressed and says that they have big supermarkets in Brazil too. They get into a small bickering argument about a buy 5, save 5 baby wipe sale before Paul completely and randomly tells us about all of his extremely limited knowledge of feminine hygiene products. Karini is mortified. And the eye roll that comes with him going to ask the pharmacist about the pads is basically worth the entire show. But once the grocery shopping trip is done, they go to the trailer park to look at some living options. We see them look at two places. The first is completely gutted on the inside. There are loose floorboards and no walls at all. The second is a camper rather than an actual traditional mobile home. Paul tries to talk to Karini about the options, but she is exasperated and just says that you're a bad husband. She just wants to go back to the hotel. She didn't come to America to ride around in a dirty car and expected something like 2 bedrooms and a yard, not worse living conditions than they had in Brazil. So I feel like Paul this time was going out of his way to give us just a rich tapestry of Pole isms.
Oh,
on this one
absolutely.
episode. So, there was the balls. He was using his hands to demonstrate how tampons work. So what was your favorite Pole moment of the show?
Oh, God. So I don't think you covered this, but when he was talking about tampons, he was trying to demonstrate with his hands, and he did the whole, circle with the finger going through it, which looked an awful lot
Very
like
much, yeah.
him trying to translate his his blessing. He was trying to ask for Karini's dad's blessing for marriage, but it also looks like sex. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul.
I feel like he has 1 or 2 hand motions, and that's it. He's like, the thing goes into the other thing. And so,
Yes.
yeah.
The finger goes into the ring. The tampon goes into the vagina.
Yes. The other thing goes into the vagina. Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. And then Paul's lack of knowledge just in general. He was like, well, I know you have pads with wings, pearls, and then diamonds. I was
And
like,
then
what is he
different
talking about?
Flows. I think the diamonds was supposed to be a joke. He was like, well, there's pearls, so there must be diamonds. I don't know. I know you don't like wings. He was very lost.
Who doesn't like wings?
I don't know.
Sometimes it curls up on the sides if you don't have wings. I'm shocked that they still make stuff that doesn't have wings. Well, okay, I take it back. As someone who is not a thong wearer, I will defend the wings, but I suppose if you have things that are skinnier, then probably the wings would be more adhesive to get stuck to other things.
As well, obviously, I have no preferences or
thoughts. Well, you better get versed on this.
Oh, no.
Mr. O.
We're already there. I know.
Yeah.
I have to. I know I have to buy them, but I have no. I'm just like, whatever you say you like is what you like. I have no basis for anything. I don't know if wings are good. I don't know if wings are bad. I know what they are. I know what all the things are, but I'm just like,
Sure.
well, you tell me it's bad, then great, it's bad. You tell me you like this, fantastic, you like
Well,
this.
things curl up. That's why they invented the wings to begin with. But like I said, if there's nothing to adhere to, then I
Sure.
can see why someone would prefer not to have the wings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say that I'm not surprised that Karini was embarrassed by this whole thing. And I sometimes forget how young she is.
Yeah.
Because Paul's so much older, right? And so they did their intro card and I saw, oh my gosh, he's 23 and he's 35. There's like a 12-year difference, right? But if I think about myself at 23, and I really hope that society is changing, because I know there have been a lot of movements just in general, kind of along the same lines as free the nipple, but I was super embarrassed about my period when I was in my early 20s,
Sure.
I don't think I was not embarrassed about buying pads and tampons until probably my mid to late 20s. And I hope that society is changing where we are normalizing it and it's not an embarrassing thing. But I can absolutely see her being in her 20s and still embarrassed about this. She doesn't want this advertised on television, what kind of flow, what her preferred product is.
Right. I can see it. Yes, I can see that. But I think the other thing that kind of tends to get people into being more comfortable with it, with discussing it, talking it, buying the things out, all this stuff, is she had a baby. When you have a baby, you're like, oh no, everybody was all up in there.
Everybody's all up in your business.
Yeah.
Everyone saw everything.
Everybody saw everything. So it's done now. That ship has sailed. But,
Right.
But her thing was but what I couldn't get, and I was with her, is she didn't want to answer his questions. Fine.
No,
Because she was also like, I'm standing right here. I'm fully capable of picking out the ones I want.
Right.
You don't have to do it for me.
Yeah.
And then when she didn't want to answer the question, he was like, well, I'll go ask the pharmacist. She was like, I definitely don't need you to ask the pharmacist.
What was he going to ask the pharmacist about? Her preferences? Why would the pharmacist know that? It made no sense.
It made no sense.
Paul is a weirdo.
He's so weird.
Yeah. I was really proud of Mary, though, for not caving in and for calling him out, saying, like, you're just using, Karini and Pierre to try guilt me into giving you money, and I'm not about that.
No, right. And I like that she was like, I will watch Pierre whenever. I love Pierre. He's great. He can come over to my house whenever he wants to.
But even then, I think she was kind of like, wait a second. You're using him, him to get to me.
She's willing to help. She's willing to help, like, in kind. Oh, you need me to watch the kids so you can go to work? I got you.
Yep.
Like,
oh, you have a job. Amazing. I will watch your kids for days.
Yeah.
Please, Paul, go to work.
Yeah, maybe starts out as something she's really enthusiastic about. Maybe something that kind of tails off later. But yeah, she's really sticking to her guns this time, and good for her.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kind of talk about the places that they were looking at. I have no words for how he could be so crazy about how poor their living conditions are in Brazil. And then he's like, yes, let's go live in this place.
Yeah.
Those places looked way worse than any place they lived in Brazil.
And that's what she said. Even he said, well, we're going to have to be more efficient here. That was a camper.
Okay, what about the first place where he's like, does this place have air conditioning? It's like, Paul, the place doesn't even have a wall. It's entirely missing a wall. Let's get a wall in first before we talk about air conditioning.
Any kind of flooring. The toilet was just sitting in the middle of the room. Even the lady was like, you might want a wall around the toilet or something?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and then you think about it, he does kind of have a baby face in a way, and I think his facial hair kind of hides maybe the age a little bit better, because he does look young for a 35-year-old to me. So sometimes I forget,
Sure.
And I think it's also his mannerisms and kind of how he walks around. He just kind of reminds me of like this goofy kid,
right? Well, I mean, part of it is the facial hair. I don't think necessarily that it's covering anything up. It's that it's not particularly thick or full, and so it kind of looks like the facial hair of it. Somebody who, I have facial hair now. You work in high school. You've seen these kids. Like, I can grow a mustache. You'd be like, not really, but I see what you're doing there. Yeah,
A for effort. But I kind of forget how old he is. And it's just like, wow, the fact that you are 35 and pretty much been mooching off your parents this entire time. And I mean, Mary even says, he always says that he's just getting on his feet, but he's never on his feet. And he always says, oh, this is just temporary help, temporary.
But it's been temporary for, 15 years now. Like,
right. And it's like, at what point do you kind of figure your shit out? And I agree with her that he keeps on making these bad decisions. Was it the best decision for him to get married to Karini and knowing full well that she wanted to have kids like immediately, and then to go along with having kids immediately?
And then, well, even this one, like, I'm sure Mary is happy with the decision that they are moving, that they're back in the U.S., but she was like, you did it dumb. Did you have a place to stay? Did you have a job before you came? No, you just came and showed up. Like,
and the thing is though, he 100% thought that he was going to be able to live with his parents, and it seemed like he didn't really know until last minute that wasn't going to be an option.
We knew. I mean, he just thought, he just is thinking at some point she's going to crack. At some point she's going to crack and let me in. So, because
I think they have. I mean, how are you 35 and capable of doing anything unless you did grow up with enabling parents? And I wouldn't even say both his parents, because he said some creepy things in the past, like father would not approve, So it definitely seems like it's been Mary. So I don't know why she's been more emboldened to kind of stand her ground. Maybe it's the fact that she's realizing, like, he has a family, like, you can't get more adult than that.
Right, because he was, like, straight up, he was asking for a quote-unquote loan, which, I mean, come on, we all know.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows. Like, but he didn't even, like, start off easy. Like, hey, maybe do you think you could co-sign this lease? Because my credit's not great, and I need that, like, he didn't even start there. He was just but yeah, you need to just give me cash money right now. Immediately. Didn't even have 2 weeks worth of money in the bank. I need money now.
Yeah. All right. Let's start off with Colt. So Colt and Debbie are getting ready for their trip to Brazil. Colt is excited that Debbie wants to leave the country. Deb is excited to see a Brazilian Walmart. And Colt is excited to see his mom in a Brazilian bikini. Debbie disappoints him and says that she's going to be wearing shorts. Debbie is concerned about the crime, being able to use her phone, and the lack of hot water. Debbie asks if her opinion will matter this time around. She tells us that he's already messed up once, so he gave up the right to make his own decisions, referring to his relationship with Jess. Colt thinks that Debbie isn't going there with an open mind and is just there to sabotage the relationship. They land in Baravelha, and Debbie is excited. They have a Panda Express. It ends up that Larissa's phone call did not resonate with Jess. It did resonate with Jess, and she is concerned about her relationship, but wants to get to know Colt more before she makes any kind of decision. There is a very awkward introduction of Debbie and Jess. Deb thinks that Jess is really cute and voluptuous. They are being interviewed outside the airport, and Jess tells us that she is excited that Colt will meet her family, but she needs some alone time, for sex. And then she immediately apologizes to Debbie, who has a completely blank expression on her face. While in the cab, Colt tries to turn on Jess by telling her about his Brazilian bikini. Debbie is playing awkward third wheel as they reveal to her their future kids' names, Dominic and Katrina. Debbie is speechless that they are thinking about kids. That makes Debbie nervous that Jess will try to get pregnant intentionally so she can stay in the country. Colt and Jess start kissing and making out, and Debbie starts to melt down, saying she feels sick and needs to lay down now. I had the same thoughts. They go to the hotel and find that they are staying in a suite, which is really just 2 rooms connected by a common door. Colt explains that he wanted his mom close by since this is the first time out of the country, but there must have been something lost in translation. Debbie immediately goes to one of the twin beds and lays down, and for some reason Jess is choosing now to try to talk to her, questioning why she's really tired if she's from Vegas. Colt knows this is a very dangerous territory and is begging Jess to let his mom sleep and tries to grab her by the hand and lead her out. Debbie dramatically claims that if she's awake for 5 more minutes that she'll be in the hospital in 30 minutes. Jess worries that Debbie is mad at her or doesn't like her. They are talking about Debbie even though the common door is wide open. Jess wonders how they will have sex with Debbie right there, and Debbie gets up and slams the door shut. Jess is haunted by Larissa's warnings about Debbie. All right. Would you ever have sex with someone with your mom in the next room? And let's be real here about their door situation. I say slam shut, but it's one of those weird sliding doors. Mm-hmm. So I've been at an Airbnb where actually a couple hotels too that have like the farmhouse style door as a bathroom, which by the way is the worst for privacy ever.
Oh,
like that shouldn't be a thing,
like
right?
the swinging saloon doors, like those ones?
No, the barn style doors, the ones that like slide shut, but it's like
pocket doors. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of how I equated this door, because it was kind of almost like a slider door.
Yeah, it was a very thin door. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So that depends on what you mean by the next room, right?
Well, that situation, right there.
No. If there is one door between us, then yeah, that's gonna be an issue. But like,
right.
If you were like, I don't know, going for like a wedding or something, and your mom was in the next hotel room over, and there was like shared a wall, that's a different situation, right?
Well, let's hope you're not loud, because even hotels have like thin-ish walls.
It would still
right?
be. It would be yes. It would have to be a. Look, we got to be quiet when we do it, but it wouldn't stop me.
Oh goodness! That's just that's just not right.
But definitely not if there's a single door that they could just open, especially like from everything I gathered, that room was in between her and the bathroom, right?
Was it?
I don't think Debbie had a bathroom in there, right?
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't notice that. Right, so the bathroom was in Colt and Jess's room, and then Debbie's room with the twin beds were like on the other side of the door. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like a suite, but it was a weird setup, like in that like.
But even still, like he said, lost in translation. That's how I would picture a suite to be. I wouldn't picture it to be 2 completely closed off rooms that were somehow adjoined in some way.
I don't know. Usually when I hear it's a suite, at least every time I've stayed in something that was described as a suite, it's like there's like a common area and 2 rooms.
I guess. I feel like I've stayed at a variety of them. I wouldn't just assume that they were completely private.
Sure. I guess so. I would definitely would ask for a floor plan or see a floor plan or something. But
yes, and I'm sure there's something like pictures.
But I mean, I think lost in
online.
translation might have been lost in Colt's wallet. But that's my
Oh, true, very true, because he does seem kind of cheapish.
yeah, very cheapish. Because she was just like, how are we going to do it with your mom right there? I was like, I feel like you guys can find somewhere to go do it.
And I feel like she doesn't really care because the whole like, oh, I can't wait to have sex with Colt. Sorry, Debbie. It's like, well, obviously she doesn't care that Debbie knows they're having sex.
Right. It's just she doesn't want Debbie to like walk in on them or see them or have to like be and.
Quite honestly, I don't think she cares. If you have no shame where you are having sex with Colt, I don't think you'd actually care if people saw you having sex with Colt.
But then Colt was like, "Yeah, she's sleeping real deep, and the door's closed." That's like what new parents do. They're like, "No, the baby's asleep in the other room. The doors are closed. We can do this real
Debbie's
quick."
like a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, she had like the most epic meltdown.
Oh my god, so whiny. Oh, which is terrible. But my thing was, okay, she is clearly, it's not hangry. Hangry is when you're angry and you're hungry. What's it called? You're like angry and tired at the same time, because some people get like that.
Cranky, I guess.
But that was it. A little, very overdramatic. A little.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I've felt that way before, absolutely, especially if it's like a long travel day. But I mean, at the same time, like, we're adults. Yes, you feel that way, and I definitely can relate. I have felt that way. But does it mean I've acted out? You know, I can control myself where I'm not
screaming at
like,
people,
being awful to everyone around me.
But who is like, come on, when you're tired and cranky like that, the worst person in the world is somebody who's trying to keep you awake.
Oh, yeah.
Are you really tired? Let's go do something. Do you want to talk now? Like, you're like, you evil person.
That would make me not like Jess, like, as a first impression if I was Debbie.
Right.
I'd be like, all right, like, I don't need to talk to you right now, but I also don't like you.
Yes.
You're not getting it. I'm tired.
Like, there's some people, it doesn't bother me as much because I don't have trouble sleeping. But I know there's lots of people who are like, the worst thing you can possibly do to me is wake me up. That is just like, number one, you're off my list. We're done. You woke me up. Get out. We're done.
Yeah. I do get cranky. I may be one of those people.
I am like, so it's weird to me that other people are like that. I understand that they are because I'm a grown up and have empathy and can, put myself in other people's shoes, but it doesn't bother me personally. But yeah, Jess was just like, well, let's talk now. Are you sure you're tired? And what's that? You're from Vegas. Does she know who most people who live in Vegas don't like do Vegas-y stuff? Right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a, regular town. You don't have to be, well, you live in Vegas, so clearly you're in clubs all the time. Like, no, Debbie is 78 years old.
Yeah, can you imagine Debbie in a club? Oh, maybe in the casino. I could see her gambling till late.
Yeah, but she's going to be on one of those, like, she wouldn't be on a strip casino. She'd go to one of those budget, like, random casinos and do nickel slots all the time, the whole time.
Sure. Absolutely. But still, they're 24 hours, too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I could see her being a slot jockey. I will give you that.
Right.
All right, moving on.
Okay, let's move on to Larissa. Okay. So we'll get the second half of them. So Larissa was summoned to court by immigration, and she's very nervous about why. 2 hours later, she leaves court happy that she wasn't arrested. Hannah, her friend, who got tricked into giving her a ride, was scared because they had to go through security and she had to come up with an escape plan on the fly. They required pictures and fingerprints, and now Larissa is concerned that this will bring them back to her arrest record. Even though she is relieved she wasn't arrested, she is now anxious about what will happen next. Larissa now has more time to be upset that she's single, and the poor thing is so desperate to be coupled up now that Colt has moved on that she agrees to a date with her ex. Larissa tells us that she broke up with Eric because she felt like he wasn't interested anymore. Eric is clearly pissed that she broke up with him over text. He said he felt used. He says he forgives her for spreading false rumors, filing a police report, and making him crazy. She said she was covering her ass with the police report because she was on probation and she was scared. Eric wants to know how can he be sure history won't repeat itself. Larissa tells him that they had great sex in the beginning. High five, bro, am I right? And Eric admits they stopped having sex because the troubles in their relationship made it so they lost their spark. He agrees to starting over again if they can take it slow and focus on not arguing. All right, so Larissa claims that Eric just, wasn't interested. Why do you really think that Eric stopped having interest in sex with Larissa?
I'm not sure that he did, to be honest. I think that she was yelling at him all the time, and he took that to mean, I guess she doesn't want to do it tonight then. Okay.
I don't know. I feel like she's one of those people that would also have, like, really good makeup sex, or just angry sex, I feel like.
Yeah, but some people just don't do that. And so it's like you're on different wavelengths as they're like, oh, I want to get this fight and have this exciting sex. And the other person's like, oh, we got in a fight. I guess sex is off the table for tonight. And then you get mad that the other person never wants to do it. And you're like, oh, I thought you were mad at me. I'm confused. What's going on?
I don't know. I kind of agree with her. He just doesn't, to me, seem like he's really that into her. There was nothing about this date that made it seem like he was really that into her. He seemed bitter, if anything.
I thought at the end, though, he had a shit-eating grin and stuff, but I don't know if it was just because, oh, you came crawling back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that it was that. Plus, I'm pretty sure that's just how he always looks.
Okay. He just has that smackable face all the time.
I really think he's just such a fame whore. Because, okay, so to give us a little bit of like outside of the show perspective on how bitter he really was at Larissa, after they had broken up, he had actually hung out with Colt and Debbie and made this big thing on social media about it. Saying like, oh, we're kind of pretty much implying that they were, trading stories about Larissa and talking shit on her. And so he obviously did that for attention. And so I just don't see how you kind of can come back from that. Like he was mad at her, like, a lot. He still seems mad at her, but he also seems like the kind of person who's going to charge $100 for a cameo. Oh, by the way, also, here, this is also a little social media tidbit. He also started a OnlyFans, fans only, I forget what we said.
It's OnlyFans, yes.
OnlyFans. He started an OnlyFans earlier this month, and I guess he got some badge on OnlyFans that said he was the top 15%. I don't even know top 15% of what exactly. And then he advertised this on his social media with some weird, like, I don't know. I was just like really grossed out. I was like, who is subscribing to you? You are such a fame whore. He's doing this for his own self-promotion and publicity. He does not care about Larissa. That's my take on the whole thing.
And that could very well be accurate. I mean, he seemed, that's what I was like, to me, he seemed excited. But you could be right. He could have been excited about like, oh yeah, back on the show.
Back on the show.
Back on the show. So he can pay for her boobies.
Activate this cameo again. Let's bump it up.
Yes. This $100 makes him like one of the most expensive people on the show.
It does. It's absolutely ridiculous. It would be one thing if he was, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is in the master fame whoring plan to be like, oh, well, Larissa and I will both be on Cameo and we'll do one together. I could see him possibly making like 100, maybe even like 120 with the two of them together.
I don't even think, like, David Nanny charged 50.
Yeah.
Like, it seems silly that you're going to get double them.
Right. But people like Larissa. Well, they think she's funny.
They think
just
she's
like
funny.
they think like David and Annie are funny, right?
Right. But Larissa's a meme factory, so they like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But Eric, it's like, what?
Nobody cares about you.
You have to offer?
You have nothing.
Oh, God.
You have nothing but a stupid looking face. Yes.
Yes. Speaking of which, how old is he? This guy. I'm like shocked by his age every single time. And I feel like I've asked you this before because it was kind of a trick question. I was like, one of those rhetorical questions. How old do you think he is? And you're just kind of like, I don't know, in his 30s? And you're like, no, he's like 24. And you're just like, what the hell?
He doesn't look like that. He looks almost 40.
Oh, yeah, he does, right? Oh, it's not even just his hair. It's just like his whole everything.
His hair has a lot to do with it. The amount of gray hair that he has is not helping.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if it's gray. I think he's trying to do like that silver thing. And it's like, no, once you're past looking a certain age, it looks like gray hair. It doesn't.
Right. And I feel like if you're going to go that way, like, I don't know, it matches better with a certain style. And
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like there's trendier ways you could pull that off.
Right. You have to have a more aggressive cut, not the middle-aged man cut that he's got.
Right. But let's be clear here. The basis of me disliking Eric has to do with just his fame whoring ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
stupid face doesn't help his
it's just
cause,
so
but, you know.
amazing that this story keeps being met. This, couple, this whole thing just keeps managing to find all these people that are just all terrible. I guess I liked Hannah. I guess.
You liked Hannah?
I liked Hannah. I guess.
Yeah. But then once again, like, why do you think Hannah's on this show? Well, because she got to advertise her
body sculpting, mm-hmm.
her body sculpting thing, because she drove the car that had the big old sticker in the back.
Yeah, that's true.
So, she gets something too.
Everybody gets something. Okay, moving on to Angela and Michael. So we first see Angela packing up to get going to Nigeria, and she's being helped by her friend Amy, who is going to be helping Skyla with Mama and the grandkids while Angela's away. Angela manages to close all of her bags and then says goodbye to her mother. She seems very concerned that something might happen while she is away, so she is reluctant to say goodbye. But it seems like Mama is just tired of hearing it, because her reaction is just go and get married or whatever already. Get out of here. And I get where she's coming from, because from here on out, Angela just gets very, very repetitive. Between now, the drive to the airport, and when she lands in Lagos, she just keeps saying the same things over and over again. This time it feels different. I can't believe I'm doing this. I might be back a married woman, etc., etc., etc. When she finally does get to Nigeria, Michael says that he's happy to see Angela because it's nice to be in the physical presence of his woman, but Angela sees through that and says he's just horny. Since they're starting their lives together, they work things out a little different. Instead of staying in a hotel like they usually do, Michael has rented an apartment to more closely replicate what their lives will be like when they're together as a married couple. Angela is nervous that Michael messed up and got a crappy apartment, but unlike the folks on the other way,
right.
He got a place that his partner is satisfied with. Well, minus the too firm bed and the rat in the trap, which Michael playfully chases her with. I don't know. This story seems to be moving pretty slowly, but based on the preview, it's going to pick up again a bit next time. So I guess let's talk bed firmness. So how do you like your mattress? And of course, you must answer by comparing it to a penis.
Oh, God, because Angela did.
Yes, because Angela said her bed was harder than an erection. So that's the standard.
And she got really excited about saying that. She thought she was the funniest person ever. Mm-hmm. That's weird, because I don't think I would want my bed to be really hard, but I would want a penis to be hard, right?
Yeah, I mean it depends on what you want.
Those things don't go together. Your preferences aren't the same.
I just said you had to compare it to what you want your bed to be in terms of the penis.
Oh, flaccid, very flaccid.
Oh.
I am confused, but I have also had the experience that why is it that everywhere but America, they're really into hard beds? I don't get it. Like, every time I'm, like, in a hotel in Europe, in Asia, actually Australia, if I recall, had soft beds. Mm-hmm. South America, all really firm beds, like, uncomfortably firm. Like, if I'm on my side and my hip doesn't sink in, like, that's just bad. Like, then I feel like I have to sleep on my back or my stomach because my hips, like,
well, and that's the thing. Maybe they
up.
just kind of, because culturally they have the hard mattresses, everybody develops to be a back sleeper, which means they want hard mattresses. So, like, it kind of is a cycle that repeats itself. But I need, because I have my back problems. I thought it was funny that she said I need a softer mattress because of back problems. My back problems are so much worse when I'm on a soft mattress. I need it to be pretty firm. So I was like, "What? Your back problems need a soft mattress? That's crazy to me." Because mine's the other way. Once my hips sink in too far, that disaligns my back. And I just
interesting. Medium, not too soft, not too firm.
Yeah, but if you're gonna err in one direction, I way prefer too firm than too soft.
Ooh, I think I would rather too soft.
Okay, so sleep number bed.
Other things. The rat.
The rat?
Okay, to me,
it's a rat.
That didn't look real.
You think they planted it?
I don't know.
You think they
What's
planted?
that?
You think production planted the rat?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it was planted. It didn't look like a real rat. It just kind of like, I don't know. It's not that like I'm seeing a lot of dead rats, but okay, and I get rigor mortis, but it seemed really stiff and like almost like it was a plastic rat. I mean,
So I think it was, but when he picked it up, he picked up a trap, right?
Yes.
And it was mostly on the trap.
Okay.
And so that was like holding it up, I
But
think.
it also didn't seem very like, I don't know. It just didn't look real to me.
I thought it was funny because she was like, "That's the biggest rat I've ever seen. We don't have rats like that in Georgia." Like,
Oh, yes, you do.
I bet they do in Atlanta. I'm sure they do.
You certainly do. The thing is that they have rats everywhere in the U.S. I think just people don't notice them everywhere because, I mean, where I am, I wouldn't think that there were big rats. And I think when I was in college, I was hanging out in a shopping center and we were out really, really late. I think we were just eating ice cream or something like that. I saw the biggest rat I've ever seen was bigger than that rat. Just like running around, and I think like they're in areas where you're gonna get food all the time, so it might not necessarily be around your house,
Right.
But they're out and about,
Right. And I lived in Baltimore City in college, so I saw plenty of rats. It
Yeah.
was like because it's not just because it's filthy or dirty or whatever nonsense. It's just because there's no place for them to hide. Like they're gonna be
Right.
out. Like there's not a bunch of different things. There's not a woods for them to go running into or anything like that. They got to be out in the street. They're gonna be out in the street.
Yeah. So I did think the apartment was really cute, and I thought he did a good job.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, better than anybody else this season, either show who has bought an apartment so far. But
Right.
that's also because he's known her for the longest, and he knows what she expects, right?
Well, I wonder with what money, because don't we know that Michael doesn't actually work?
That's what we're told. I don't know if they spent the show money on the apartment or what.
Oh, maybe. I could see them doing that. Yeah, and then last thing about them is she says that she doesn't want to lose her name. And I know that she was just getting all sentimental, but it was just kind of like, well, you don't have to.
Yeah, she's... we talked about this before in another episode. We talked about,
Yeah.
once you're established, she's established. Like,
Yeah, yes, she is.
like she basically, she's doing the show. She performs under that last name, so she can go ahead and
Yeah,
keep it.
she definitely does. Right. Like, do we even know what his last name is? I know her last name is Deem.
Yeah, I have no idea what his last name is, but I definitely know
Yeah,
her
I don't
last
either.
name. Yeah.
She probably just keep it anyway, or at least as a stage name, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Kalani and Asuelu. Kalani is having breakfast with her parents and her sister, and Kalani tells us that Asuelu did end up coming back after the bus ride to nowhere last night, but he's in the room with the baby. Kalani's dad, Lo, questions, came back? From what? Because he didn't know what would happen. Kalani's mom tells Lo the short of what happened, which was Asuelu was being a dick and wandered off. Kalani tells us that she was on a wild goose chase trying to find Asuelu because he kept calling her, telling her to pick him up, but giving her the wrong location. After Kalani told him she wasn't going to drive around looking for him after the third wrong location, he finally told her where he really was. He insisted on finding a bus back to Utah, and Kalani begged him to stay for Oliver's sake. He decided to stay, but they haven't talked anything out. Lo says that he's starting to get pissed off and asks if he should talk to Asuelu. Kalani thinks that that would just make things worse, so Kalani's mom makes Lo pinky promise, that he will not confront Asuelu about anything at least this weekend. Lo agrees, but says to us that he's not going to let anyone disrespect his family. Kalani walks back into the room to find Asuelu playing video games and asks him to stop so they can talk or so that he can get ready for the party, and he just says no to both. And Kalani says, whatever, and leaves. Finally, it's time for Oliver's birthday party, and for some reason, it's at night for a 3-year-old's birthday. Asuelu is noticeably absent, and Kalani is honest about the reason why. And Kalani goes back to the room to try and get Asuelu to come outside to the party, and he is very rude to Kalani, saying he will say bad things to her, and he just doesn't care. He stops talking to her and goes back to playing video games. But then Asuelu opens the door and changes his shirt to his party shirt, and Lo goes inside to talk to Asuelu. He tells him simply that he needs to put his feelings aside for his son's sake and join the party. Lo tells us that he honored his promise to his wife and daughter, but next time there will be no talking. They'll just be straight up ass whooping. Kalani is annoyed that Asuelu is just putting a show on for everyone and thinks that he's a fine actor. Kalani is Kalani's sister, by the way. After the party, Asuelu attempts to talk to Kalani, telling her that he is happy to make the babies happy. He offers to help clean up, and Kalani is frustrated that they never seem to actually talk about their issues. All right, so if your daughter was Kalani and you're low in this situation, what do you think you would do in this whole situation? Your daughter is not being treated right by her guy, and he's just being a dick. Are you going to whoop ass?
Lo is showing a lot of restraint. You say that.
Yeah.
Because oh man, like I don't know. And it depends on what other people would. If I was Lo, they would, and they kind of wanted it to happen, like, please don't say anything, please don't make a scene, please don't ruin the party. I'd be like, I got to step out then, because I can't sit here and watch this. No.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And there's going to be, yeah, because it's one of those things I really would want to set him straight. But the thing is I know as well as you do, he's acting like a petulant child, and we deal with petulant teenagers all the time. Yelling at them does not fix it. Like, whooping their ass does not fix it.
So the thing with them that I think, like, works in their favor is that Asuelu knows to at least show respect to Lo, even if he doesn't like him, right? And I think that really helps that Lo is Samoan, and that he would be considered an elder if they were back in Samoa.
Right.
So I think that really does help that Asuelu is never disrespectful to Lo, but he seems to be a completely different person when Lo's not around.
I think it helps it not come to blows. Like, honestly, it helps there to not be violence, but it doesn't help the situation on a macro scale, right? That he becomes this completely different person who just shuts his mouth and just, like, he wanted to hide. He was hiding from Lo the whole time. Like, he was hiding in his room, right? Until he was confident that Lo wasn't going to say anything, so he could come out with his little monster truck shirt on and do the party, and, like, he was just trying to avoid the guy. Like, and so doing all that and, like, kind of going behind his back, because even, like, Kalani's mom said it last week. He was like, "Oh, you wanna be the man? Why don't you say that when my husband's around?" Because he won't. He won't. He would never.
Yeah, I can't imagine him doing that either. Yeah, and let's be real here. Like, Lo could take him in a fight.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's quite a bit bigger than him.
Yes, 100%.
Which Asuelu doesn't seem that small to me anyway.
No, he's not. Lo is a.
But it's kind of hard to tell.
But you can see they all are shielding what really happened from Lo because they know what's going to happen if he knows. Like, they did not say, "Oh, he called her a lying bitch." Like, they did not say that. They're like, "Oh, we had a disagreement and he was being like." They didn't say, "Oh, the woman's job is easy and she needs to shut up and just do it." And I hate your annoying voice. Like, they didn't say those things to him.
Oh my gosh, I want to see Lo kick his ass. I really do. Put him in his place, but I mean, not for the sake of violence. Like, I wonder if that's the only way to get through to him. I
mean, and that's what he's talking about, because if it is a cultural thing, that seems to be the way that Lo says it. If we were back in Samoa, I'd be talking with my hands.
Yeah.
Right. And so does he not? Is there something in Asuelu that doesn't think he's being serious if there's not violence? But like, you haven't taken it to that step yet, so it must not be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because, oh my God, like, he really far down, right? Like, he is falling like a rock in the power rankings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think in the first season that they were on, he just kind of came off as, like, even, I don't know how it's possible, but, like, less English than he knows now, right? And so you're just kind of like, oh, I feel like you kind of gave him a pass because the things he did say were kind of silly, and he didn't really say much anyway. He appeared to be trying to do right by them by even coming to the country in the first place, Right. And I don't think we were far enough along for them to get to the point where he should be working, or, they were both kind of helping out because they were both at home. So, yeah. Very different, though. Exactly.
All right. So let's move on to Libby and Andrei. Libby is cooking with Andrei's mom, who's giving her instructions on how to cut bananas and smash avocado. in Romanian, and Libby is confused because she doesn't speak very good Romanian, but Andrei won't come in to translate, so it puts Libby in a bad mood. She continues to be in a bad mood at tea time when Mama Andrei serves some tea and cookies, and Libby asks if this is something they do every day. Andrei jumps on this opportunity to brag about how Moldovan women work so much harder than American women, since they cook, clean, take care of the kids, work, and put together a fancy tea time. Libby counters back that if Moldovans are so hardworking, why don't you have a job? Andrei laughs it off for a moment, but that's only because his parents, who are still right there, don't understand enough English to know that she insulted him. But he does warn that since she is in Moldova, she needs to listen double, whatever that means. Next up, they go out for drinks with Andrei's friends, who he has been keeping in contact with, even in America. Libby's worried that before they get there, that they'll fall back into their old habits and just start joking and conversing in Romanian too fast for her to understand, and she'll just kind of be left out of the whole thing. She also has concerns that Andrei has turned up his macho alpha male routine even higher now that he's in Moldova. It doesn't go down quite like Libby fears. Most of Andrei's friends are actually ragging on him rather than her. They don't get why he's not working and kind of give him shit about doing the whole house husband thing. They're kind of, that is woman's work. Why do you not have a job? Libby talks to some of the women there, including Andrei's sister-in-law. She says she's excited for her family to come, but is very worried that Jen will make an endless scenes because she won't keep her mouth shut. Later in the car, Andrei tells her not to worry about that because Moldovan women have balls and won't take her shit, which kind of seems exactly like what she's worried about. So, okay. I'm personally becoming more convinced that the two of them are just assholes that deserve each other.
Yeah.
So, who do you have on your scorecard now? Who's being the bigger asshole?
I don't know. I almost want to say that I'm Team Libby in this situation, and my reasoning behind it is I feel like a lot of her digs are reactionary. You know, I don't think she would make digs at him being a house husband if he wasn't saying that should be her job.
Right.
You know, or saying things about like, oh, you know, I come from a country where we're all hard workers. And it's like, well, are you? You know? So I feel like he's kind of the instigator. And so, yes, they're terrible together, but I kind of feel like he's the one who starts it.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like even from the beginning, she got really defensive. Like, you made cookies at snack time? I don't know. Oh, you know, she got really defensive even about that before Andrei said anything. Like, she brought out tea and was like, do you guys do this every day? What is this craziness? I feel, like it doesn't help that the buttons he's pushing are the buttons that are kind of already being pushed by their situation.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say about that because I kind of felt like she was just, I don't know, if anything, impressed.
Sure.
You know? So I don't know if I really think of that as being like negative or a dig, but I did think it was really creepy the way that he like was pretty much like threatening her, you know, while his parents were there with a smile on his face. It just reminded me of a sociopath and it like creeped me out. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I want my parents to think that we're having a good conversation. So I'm going to keep smiling and you need to listen up to me, late woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're really going to insult me right now? And it's just like with a smile on his face. And I'm just like, oh God, this is getting like scary.
Yeah. Which I mean was kind of good that then, you know, most of Andrei's friends were going right in on him then.
Yeah, as
like,
they should.
I couldn't have a job. You like, cause he talked to the one like they have worked together for a long time.
Yes. As a policeman. Okay. So let's back up here. He was a policeman, and I'm not saying that that's like a weird thing or anything like that, because him being a policeman makes sense, because wasn't he a bouncer or something like that at the club? That's like what he was doing before he moved to America. So it's kind of seems to me it's like, well, you keep on asking, like, what kind of marketable skills do I have? What have you been doing before? Be a security guard.
Right.
Like, somewhere. Or, apply to the police academy. Why not? You have your green card at this point. Like, I don't understand why you can't do those same things that you have experience with.
Right. I mean, I don't know if he did it for very long. Maybe he left under bad terms, too, so.
Oh, maybe.
That could have messed it up a little bit.
Well, I mean, how many, like, security guards at the club?
Yeah, probably.
It's kind of like...
could have left the police force under bad terms, too.
Right. Or, like, mall cops. I kind of feel like those are things where there's
jobs.
less rigorous of a background check.
Uh-huh.
I'm not trying to disparage those professions. But, if you maybe had a questionable mark on your record, that would be...
Yeah, so I guess
a place where you could go.
I guess I'm also a little bit confused as to she's worried about Jen coming and butting heads with everybody. But is she really going to butt heads with anybody but Andrei? Like, he seems the worst of all his friends. He was the worst of being a jerk and an alpha male and the things like that. He is the worst of them. Like, she's not going to get along worse with the rest of the guys who she doesn't care about barely.
And I think that people get most frustrated in Libby's family because it just seems very hypocritical. Mm-hmm. You can't claim to be like, I'm going to be the man. I'm going to be the one who makes the decisions. I'm going to wear the pants because I'm the one making all the money, and then not make the money.
Right.
Right? And so I kind of feel like if Andrei was making the money, that the situation would be a little different because they wouldn't be living off of Chuck.
Right.
And so they wouldn't have kind of that financial tension, because I feel like part of the problem here is that they all equate money to power and control in their relationships.
Sure.
Right. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why Andrei was kind of weird about, originally back, I think whenever their last season was, he wanted to move out of Chuck's house and pay for an apartment, on their own. Because once again, he's equating like this whole money with control and power over the relationship.
Right. Which,
and
I
so
don't know. I hear you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't fit right within a relationship to me. Mm-hmm. But you're right. They totally do. He couldn't live under, if Chuck was paying for their rent, then he was subservient to Chuck. He was under Chuck on the hierarchy. You can't have that.
Right. So I think that's part of like what the issue is that he wants to have the power and control in the relationship, but he doesn't have the money part. And it's not just him that views things that way. It's her entire family kind of views things that way. And I feel like that is the source of a lot of the conflict.
Well, I mean, it's not just, it is the money because they kind of think of the money, but his reasoning for, if the response to, if you don't make any of the money, why should you have to make all the decisions? His response is, because I'm a man.
Right. Sure.
And that's even worse.
So maybe it's the differing of Andrei thinks it's because of gender, whereas people in Libby's family think that if you have the money, you have the control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're certainly not on the same page. I have a crowdsourced question for you all. I was in love with Libby's shirt that she wore when they all went out with Andrei's friends. So if you happen to know where Libby got her shirt from, please send us a message because I really want to get that shirt.
Good call.
It was super cute.
I didn't even notice it. I noticed I noticed his shirt, which was not great. But
it didn't even register in my mind.
Yeah, it was weirdly white. It had weird stripes. His dress is mostly the same all the time.
Yes, I was gonna say standard V-neck black shirt is what I.
No, I think he had a button down on.
Okay.
He had a button down that he had tucked into black jeans, which that part kind of messed the whole thing up. But
Yeah, he should get that. What is it? The Untuck It shirt.
Yes. Yeah. Is it Untuck It? Something like that. I don't know. I never tuck in shirts anyway, so it looks terrible.
Okay, so last up we have on Happily Ever After is Tanya and Syngin. So Tanya is with one of the members of the Cockblock crew we dubbed them that, the Laughing Hyena girl crew, Monique. Tanya tells us that she understands that Syngin is under a lot of stress, but wishes he would address his drinking problem. She wants to ask Monique her advice about the situation. Tanya tells Monique that Syngin has been great about helping her out with her injury, but she feels like a burden. And Monique points out that their relationship seems like it's strained. Monique questions if their troubles are because of the injury or because they jumped into this marriage so quickly. Tanya then complains that Syngin deals with his troubles with alcohol. Tanya feels like they need to get on the same page about what they want in life, in the present and the future. Syngin thinks that life has been stressful lately and he just feels suffocated. He believes that the accident has really held them back, and he thinks things would be different, and they probably wouldn't be in Connecticut if it weren't for the accident. Tanya voices her concern with Syngin being able to keep a balance of work, partying, and alcohol. Syngin tells her that he doesn't want to stay here permanently, and he doesn't want to raise kids in America. He then throws it back in her face that why would he want to when she doesn't even think of him as her soulmate. Tanya starts to get argumentative, and Syngin thinks that she's not understanding his accent. Tanya asks him if he's ready to plan their future, and she is confused because he said he wouldn't be there if he wasn't, but then on the other hand, he's expressing fear over settling down and having kids. Tanya just thinks he's scared that having more responsibility will cut into his partying and drinking. He says that it's not about drinking, but his ability to be able to pack up his bags and go. Syngin thinks that the only reason they got married was because of the visa. All right, so definitely I feel like we saw this their first season as well. Mm-hmm. Like, you have this whole idea of, like, these polar opposites. Like, Syngin has this side where he's just, like, kind of like this free, kind of hippie type, you know, can't be tied down to anything. And Tanya definitely has that side to her as well, because, I mean, that's what attracted them to each other.
Right.
But then she kind of has this other side where she's so serious. She needs to get settled down. She needs to have kids, like, now, because she wanted to have kids before she was 30.
Right.
But Syngin's never, like, he's talking about having kids, like, 10 years from now. So why do you think Syngin was compelled to settle down with Tanya when he seems so anti-settling down at all?
I don't think he ever thought they were actually settling down. Right? Because that's what he seemed to be saying in that. He was like, listen, before your accident, we were going to move to Florida. We were going to do whatever. We were going all over. We weren't going to stay here. We weren't going to put down roots anywhere. And now we're stuck in Connecticut. He's like, I didn't want to be in Connecticut. I wanted to be anywhere else. And it's to the point now where they even is like, I want to be anywhere else. He's like, I can't be in America. Mm-hmm. Like, that he's throwing at her. I can't raise kids in America. I don't know if he thought he could do it and now he's panicking and he can't do it, or if he just thought that she was going to be different and kind of blow with the wind more than she is blowing.
I was going to say, why would you think she is less stubborn than she's shown?
Yeah.
She seems pretty strong-willed and stubborn. So if she says that she wants to have a kid, she's not letting go of that idea.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. And the thing was, is like, he said, he contradicted himself a lot in the conversation. That's what really bothered me about it. Because he was like, oh, I thought we would just come to America and then, like, buy some property and I could just chill on it. And then 2 seconds later, he's like,
settling down.
Yeah. And then later he was like, but I really feel trapped whenever I can't just pack my bags and go. And it's like, well, when you own property, you can't just pack your bags and go. You can't, those two things don't go together.
Right. I don't think he knows what he wants, to be quite honest. And I kind of feel like he's young enough where that kind of makes sense, but you did not make the kind of decisions in your life that kind of go along with you not really knowing what you want. And I always, like, struggle with that, because it's like when you bring someone else into that uncertainty, that's just not fair to that other person.
It isn't. And the thing that annoyed us with them, one of the things that annoyed us with them last time, and even still do right now, he's still doing it. They did the 90 days, and instead of being like, oh, it's 90 days, I'm bringing my fiance over, we only got 90 days to plan a wedding. That's how a lot of the early seasons were, right?
Right.
Now he came over and explicitly was like, I have 90 days to figure out if I want to marry this girl.
Yeah, I need 90 days to decide. It's like, if you're engaged, the decision has been made.
And now they're married, and he's pretty much like, I still am not sure what our future holds. And it was like, why did you get married then? If you didn't,
Being with him would drive me absolutely nuts because he's everything that, like, gets me frustrated being in a relationship. Like, just the uncertainty, the kind of wishy-washiness, being indecisive, not wanting to commit to anything. Like, those are all things that I try to steer clear from.
Yeah.
In no way am I forgetting how terrible Tanya has been, like, just in general. But I'm just saying that it's like, well, you know, he's no prize either.
He really isn't. He's
charming. He's absolutely charming and likable, and he's the kind of guy that you want to hang out with.
Absolutely. He would be a super fun guy to, like, hang out for a weekend, like to go on a weekend to the cabin or somebody with Syngin. Yeah. That'd be amazing. I'm sure it would be awesome fun. But, like, the guy that you want to buy, like, season tickets with, no, don't do that.
Yeah, right. That's the guy you're, like, gonna be like, okay, it's the end of the season. Where's your share?
Yeah. Don't buy a boat with Syngin. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Definitely don't do that. All right. So I think that wraps up Happily Ever After, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so moving on to the other way. Let's start off with Jenny and Sumit. So it's been a week since pronunciation. I will take a pause and ask what the heck the correct pronunciation is, because we'll talk about this.
We never
Jenny
get it.
is not so great at pronunciations, right?
No, because she says it 4 different ways.
Yes.
She says,
so is it
Sumit? Summit?
Sumit?
Smeet? Like,
Smee?
Yeah.
I think we had Shumit at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's
Summit? I think we agreed on
we're going
Summit,
Summit.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Summit. Okay, so he's told Jenny that he would take her to court to see the copy of the divorce papers. But Jenny and Summit meet up with his friend Niraj. Now, the reason why I say that is because when Jenny refers to the friend, she called him something like Niraj? Yeah, I want to say. And I was just like, that's not how you pronounce that name. All right, whatever. So they go paddle boating, and as soon as Jenny has him trapped, Niraj I'm talking about, she asks him why he never told her that Summit was married. He didn't feel it was his place, even though he thought it was wrong, and he knew that Summit really loved Jenny. Jenny tells him how hard it was to be confronted by Summit's family. Niraj tells Jenny that he's in the middle of his divorce, and that it's still been ongoing, and it's taken 4 years. 4 years? Jenny wants assurance that Summit, that this won't take that long. Summit tells her he's willing to pay now, so it's considered a mutual divorce, so it should be much faster. And Niraj backs up his friend and says that's true. Jenny insists again to see the paperwork. Summit is prioritizing fixing up the house before they go to the courthouse to see the paperwork. Jenny asks Niraj if he thinks she's crazy for coming back without proof, and this time Niraj backs up Jenny. Summit tells her that they will see the lawyer tomorrow. All right, so if you are the friend and you were called out for lying the first time, would you lie again the second time?
Oh.
Because I'm wondering if Niraj is being truthful about the divorce will really be fast. Because he seemed to back up Summit.
Was he saying that divorce would be really fast, or do you think he's lying to cover up that there was a divorce at all? Like, oh no, I know he is doing the divorce.
Yeah, the divorce at all.
That's the part I would be more concerned about. So I feel like lying about the divorce at all is too much. But like sugarcoating it and being like, oh no, it'll take a lot less time with him. He's going to pay up. You know, kind of framing his situation as a best case scenario. Like, in the best case scenario, it'll be over by the end of the year. Like, and not kind of being like, I don't know if it's going to be the best case scenario. But like, you know, that's a little different than lying about a divorce that isn't happening. But either way, like, if he gets caught in a lie, he's stuck with Sumit. He's not stuck with Jenny. She's gone.
Right. Well, I was going to say, like, Summit has lied about everything.
Everything.
And that's why it's like, Jenny, what are you doing? You can't trust him. And apparently he's a lying friend.
I know.
And I wouldn't even say lying, because the first time I feel like it was lying by omission, right? He didn't actually tell her what the situation was. And I feel like he didn't say that Summit actually was in the process of getting divorced. But he's like, yeah, it should be fast.
True. He didn't say, I know he filed the paperwork or anything like that, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I guess. But
I wouldn't trust the guy.
I wouldn't trust
He seems
Sumit.
like a yes man to me as well.
Especially when Sumit is, he's just doing the same thing. Like, you know, with some people,
he
I'm
is.
not sure you're lying, but you're in your lying pattern. Right? If you've ever been in a relationship or anything with somebody who is lying, you're like, I don't know what you're lying about, but this pattern of behavior is the pattern of behavior that comes out when you're lying. And so I know there's something that you're lying about. And then it just makes you paranoid and crazy.
Right, because she has insisted, like, several times now that she needs to see the papers. She needs to see the papers. And then what the hell? He comes out with, oh, we need to fix up the house. And then when we fix up the house, we can go see about the papers. It's like, how are those two things related?
That's his way of lying. So that's the way he lied last time.
Like putting it off.
Is putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, putting up. We'll go see my parents later. We'll file for the thing later. We'll do it tomorrow. Today's not a good day to do it. Like, that's his form of lying. So when he does it again, you're like, you're lying. Because some people are just lazy and procrastinate. I don't think that's him. He just does it when he doesn't want the truth to come. Like, he knows what's going to happen when he does this thing, so he avoids doing that thing.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
It's like, how are you this dumb? Move on.
Speaking of moving on. Devin and Jihoon. So Devin and Jihoon have been fighting about the lies that Jihoon told to get her and the kids to come back. Jihoon takes her outside to talk again, and Jihoon just apologizes and says she is right and he was wrong and he is sorry, blah, 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 blah. All just words. He blames how stressed he is and says he took a part-time job so that he could rest when he wants to rest, which unbelievably comes off even worse through the translator app. Yeah. Devin says that she was working 17-hour days to take care and taking care of the kids, so his part-time delivery work is not really impressing her all that much. But to try to prove how responsible he is, he tells her that he already saved up $3,000 by giving it to his mother because he knew if he kept it, he would spend it. This also backfires, though, because Devin wants to know why she went ahead and had to spend all of her savings when he had money with his mother. She says that he has sacrificed nothing and that she has sacrificed everything, and she doesn't think she wants to be together after this. She then leaves to go to a hotel with her mom and think things over. As Jihoon walks away, he says it might be game over. So, I mean, what? Is it game over? I don't think it is, right?
No, I don't think so.
I want it to be, but it's not, right?
Well, I don't know what I really feel about this, if they should be together or not. I kind of feel like you don't think they should.
I don't think they should be together. No. I mean,
I don't really know.
I don't see how what he's doing is all that much different than what Sumit's doing.
Okay, he's lying about...
But he keeps it, I mean, the macro sense about, is he married? Is that as bad? No. Is he just putting things off and putting things off and putting things off and then saying he's sorry when he has no intention of doing anything different? Or maybe has intention, but has no follow through, no capability, proved in no way he's capable of doing anything differently? And is this going to go on indefinitely until she finally breaks up with him? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. He's not going to change.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's lazy. I mean, that's his biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, maybe that's not his biggest problem. Maybe the problem is that he's a liar and he's lazy. And I don't think she should trust him at all. But at the same time, it's like the kids are involved, and I get that changes the game.
Sure.
I feel like if there weren't kids involved, then yes, they would not... this wouldn't have gone this far. Well, I'm guessing. Because Devin's a cute girl. She's just really into Korean guys. She can find another Korean guy. You know,
right.
Like, it's not that difficult. She could probably even find a Korean guy that lives in America that speaks English. Right? So, I mean, maybe, I don't know how difficult it would be in Utah specifically, but closer than Korea for sure.
Sure.
But I mean, you have kids involved, and that's why I'm kind of more hesitant to be like, eh. But at the same time, like, Jihoon needs some significant changes in his life. He needs to get his shit together, because the laziness, that is so ridiculous to me. Like, oh, I'm working a part-time job because I just, it's too hard. It's too hard to work full-time.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm going to work a part-time job. And it's kind of one of those things where I've heard people say, like, work smarter, not harder. So, but it's kind of like, but if that's not an option,
you gotta work
you're
harder.
Gonna have to work harder.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
Right. I mean, how many times have you seen people I've seen so many people who are like, I'm gonna work smarter, not harder, and then somebody else just works hard and gets it done by the end of the day, and you're still fiddling around trying to figure out how to do it smarter. And it's like, just get it done.
Yeah, definitely. What job is Devin doing that takes her 17 hours a day, though? That seems like an
extreme math
exaggeration.
problems with what she said. 17 hours a day. So she said she was spending 17 hours a day and taking care of the kids. No, she's not. If she's working 17 hours a day, somebody else is taking care of those kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was like, this doesn't add up unless you're talking about taking care of the kids as part of
Because you know what you're doing the other 7 hours of the day if you're working for 17? You're sleeping.
Yeah, like that's 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have no time to do anything else. So, yeah, I was kind of like, well, what is she doing exactly? Like, I don't know, maybe she's thinking like a kind of a work from home situation, because then it kind of all melds together. You could kind of say like, yeah, I was working for 10 hours, but it's like, well, yeah, but you were taking every like 10 to 15 minutes to do something and make sure your kids are like occupied for the next 30 minutes or something, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a pet peeve of mine that has gone back all the way through like college and stuff, is people who said that. I was so busy. Oh my God. I was working on this project for like, it was like 10 hours yesterday. I was working on this over the past 2 days. And you're like, I saw you on Counter-Strike for 4 of those hours. Like, well, you weren't working the whole time.
You were multitasking. Multitasking doesn't count.
Yeah, because that used to happen all the time. Oh, I can't come off. I'm too busy, man. I got all this stuff to do. And I was like, if you don't want to hang out, that's fine. If you don't want to go to the bar, that's fine. But just say I want to sit around and play video games. Don't lie and tell me you're busy. I was working for 17 hours in a row. Oh my God.
The translator app is super funny because
it's so bad.
You catch that
it's so bad.
He said, did you catch when he said like he was depositing his money into his mom?
Into his mom.
It missed out the into his mom's account, and it just said into his mom, and I was like, that sounds weird.
What kind of mom do you have? But
I feel like this is a euphemism.
But that's another thing. That's such a where, and that's what I don't. So much I don't understand about him. Yeah. This included, and she's like, where's the apartment? How are we going to spend money? At no point he was like, well, I have this $3,000 I've saved up. No, that didn't come up at all.
I understand why she's upset. And she's like, I feel like it's really genuine. Either that or she's a pretty good actress, because it was like she was on the verge of crying, but trying to keep it together because the kids were there.
Yes. Well, I know many, many women don't cry when they may cry when they're sad, but they really cry when they're mad. Yeah. And that's like a bad reaction, because it makes it kind of, gives people the impression that you're sad or upset, and you're just like, no, I'm just so pissed that it's coming out as tears. Like that's. Yeah. And yeah, she definitely seemed to be like that. She seemed very, very mad.
Yeah, she definitely did. So, okay, and then here's the other thing. I didn't understand why she decided that, okay, we're going to go get a hotel room, because he could just live at his parents' house, right? So she just wanted to be in a safer place?
I guess so. I guess she wanted to get out of there. You're right, because she could have been like, how about this? You sleep with your parents tonight, and I'll stay here and figure it out. Yeah. Because her mom wasn't staying there. Her mom was already at the hotel, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's similar to a Ariel and Biniam situation, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah. Yep. So, speaking of which, Ariella admits that her disappointment is not a surprise. So, the disappointment in the place that she was going to be living in. Her mom, Janice, is staying at a guest house in the city center, and she comes by to see the apartment. Janice says the area looks terrible and concerning. Ari is now seeing in the eyes of a mother, and she's seeing that it's not that great. Janice comes in hot and tells Baby that she's not a snob, but this is no condition for a baby, meaning an infant, to live in. Baby reassures them that this is just temporary and that he's actually fixing up a house for them to move in. Baby asks her to be patient. They take a tour of the house they're currently in. Ari apologizes for the cleanliness, but her mom notes that it has everything that you need. Ari tells us that she could at least clean her butt last night. We take a look at the kitchen and see that they don't have a refrigerator, and we find out that there's a barrel of water used to clean dishes and other things. The water is replaced every couple of days, and the barrel is cleaned with leaves, which horrifies Janice as she's imagining the entire house as a cesspool of bacteria. After seeing how disappointed Ari was in the first place, Baby is excited to show her the 2-bedroom apartment that he's currently renovating. He hopes that she will like this place better, but is somewhat concerned that it's the best that he could do with the little money that he has, and it will likely not live up to her place in America. He shows her and Janice the place, but it looks very undone. Ari is surprised that he has never mentioned this to her before. Ari thinks that there is a lot more potential than the last place, but as is, it's unlivable. Janice is still concerned about the condition. Baby says they will finish the place in 2 weeks, and Janice and Ari say, how? Janice thinks maybe a month would be very optimistic. Ari says that she needs running water, a toilet, a working kitchen with electricity. So, given Ari's list of must-haves, what would be your must-haves when it comes to living conditions?
They're probably pretty close to that, honestly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, running water, electricity. You said those two. Hot water.
Oh, yeah.
I would add hot water. That's it. I think it's it. If I had to like say them out loud, you know, it's like, this are the things that don't even come to me with any place that doesn't have these things.
So electricity, would that also include like a refrigerator? Because I feel like their place did have electricity, just didn't have a refrigerator.
So I would need, it depends of where I was going. That's why I feel like it's inappropriate to go to some place and ask for things that aren't typical there. Right?
Sure.
Like, just like it would be like if I was moving to a place, you know, in Maryland or, you know, somewhere around here, air conditioning would be on that list. If I was moving to Ethiopia, no, air conditioning is on my I have to have this to live list.
Right.
So it's a sliding scale depending on what the other conditions are. And so that's what it seemed like to me. I really, really did not like Janice in this episode. Mm-hmm. Because she said, I'm not a snob, but I'm a snob. That's basically what she said for the rest of the episode.
Right. She definitely came in hot. Like, she didn't even walk into the place and she's having this conversation with him about that.
Wasn't even there, and she's like, my chest is tight. Right? Mm-hmm. And the audacity to be like, this place isn't safe for a baby. Like, there's no babies born in Ethiopia every goddamn day.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like, he was raised there. You're telling someone who was raised in these conditions, this is no place to raise a baby. You're like, what are you saying about me now? What are you saying about my family who raises babies in here in less nice apartments than this? Like, no, you can't go in there hot like that.
Right. I mean, people do live like that. So yeah, that's a fair point. But I kind of wonder a little bit, you know, is there any kind of statistics on like health records for babies and things like that? Because if that was like a case, then maybe that would be like a little bit more founded of a concern. Mm-hmm. But if it's just like, oh, I'm concerned about the potential cleanliness of this water because I don't trust leaves cleaning things, then yeah, you know,
right, like,
it's understandable of your concerns.
Yeah, and like, she laughed at him. He said, how do you clean this? And she laughed at him. Like, I cannot express how much I did not like her this episode.
Okay, so this is ignorance on my part. So, and I know you know this because you just know everything, it seems like. Okay. Random trivia person. What is soap made out of then?
Soap is made out of animal fat. Did you watch Fight Club?
Oh yeah, I did. Oh yeah, the lipo.
Yeah, right.
People fat. Uh-huh. So, is there any kind of soap made out of leaves?
So there might be.
Is that like a thing?
I don't know what they make some, but I'm sure there's some sort of plant-based cleansers available somewhere. Like, I don't think it's absurd. I'm sure
there has to, right? I'm sure vegan soap, that's got to be a thing, right?
So,
because they would be super anti-soap if you're getting it from animal fat. I feel like that group would definitely not be down with that.
Yeah, so I'm looking up vegan soaps now. But yeah, beeswax, animal fat, and anything that has that kind of fatty thing. So you could probably use seed oil and stuff like that as the base, right? And then there's the lye that gets put in it. So there's stuff in it, but it would not surprise me at all that there's certain plants that have naturally antibacterial, like, skins and stuff. Like, that's not
sure. But I'm sure it's a special kind of leaf. This isn't like there's a random oak tree out here, let me rub the leaves on it.
Yeah, no, they're not doing that. It's something that I'm sure they've been using and a thing.
Right.
Yeah. Sure. And just, she laughed at him. Oh. And then I agree. He was, you know, very overly optimistic about how fast they were going to be able to get that nice apartment.
He was like, "Oh, what?
So they're
that's
not completely
too long?"
unfounded. Yeah.
It was like, "Oh my gosh! Like, you really think this is going to be done in 2 weeks?" It's like, with how many people?
How long have you been working on it
this?
right now? And you can't work on it with that many people, right? So, my background's in engineering. One of our favorite expressions is, you can't hire 9 women to make a baby in a month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
there's only so many guys that
things.
fit in there. You can't put
Right.
300 guys on this project and have it be done.
It needed a lot of work. 2 weeks was incredibly optimistic, and he was just like, "Oh, it needs to be done faster." It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, that's not enough time.
Yeah. Like, how long has he been working? Which is bad news, because now you have somebody who's working on it. And if he was that far off as to how much work and how much man hours it was going to take to get that done, then he doesn't know what he's doing. And anything that gets done is not going to be done right.
Right. Oh, concerning. All right.
All right. So I just have Brittany and Yazan. All right. There's a lot in this one.
Yes,
Brittany
definitely.
is in her hotel room following the fight she and Yazan had, I guess, last night, and she is getting ready for the day by putting on some eyelashes. Yazan is on his way, and she is hoping that when he gets there, he will apologize for his crazy behavior. When he does get there, he has some lilies for her. Nice. And explains that he is very jealous for her, and she needs to understand that that's how it's going to be if she's seeing an Arab man. Not so nice. He continues to believe that by not keeping his family's rules for alcohol and contact with women, she is disrespecting his entire culture. He tells her that she needs to watch her acting crazy, and she tells him that he was the one being crazy. But at this point, she decides against all evidence that he is remorseful and decides to forgive him. Brittany wants to go see the apartment that they will be living in, but instead they're going to visit his parents. So he has brought a hijab, and she's not feeling it and doesn't want to wear it. He tries to convince her to, and they compromise that she'll put it on in the car when they get closer to the parents' house. They are so far apart from what they expect of each other that all these arguments just seem inevitable. So on the way to the parents' house, they continue to have basically the only argument they can have. Each of them feels like the other is speaking to them disrespectfully and does not respect my culture. He doesn't get how she can just hug strange men. Like, that is beyond comprehension to him. It's like, you just hugged him. And she can't understand why he doesn't just accept that as part of her culture. She's seen American movies. She thinks he wants her to be the perfect wife that keeps her mouth shut and stays in the house all the time. They continue to argue in these circles until she puts on the hijab before they get to the parents' house. Then when they get there, Brittany doesn't want to make a scene with Yazan's parents. They were very nice to her before, and she doesn't feel like making them angry right now. But she's really fed up with all the bullshit right now, and she doesn't feel like going over the timelines of marriages, especially since she's still actually married to her ex. Of course, that when they get there, that's the only thing Yazan's parents want to talk about. He says that what they should do is Yazan should get Brittany's dad's blessing tomorrow, and then they should get married the day after. Brittany says she doesn't want to do that, and she lies because she says she wants her family to be there, but it's, again, really because she's still legally married. Yazan's dad also wants to know if she's converted to Islam, which she really has no intentions of doing. She says she doesn't want to be forced into it and to doing anything she doesn't like, and feels like she's been treating as a baby. At this point, when we get the really interesting exchange, Yazan says, "You're my baby." And she says, "No, I'm not your baby," because she's mad at him. Then then Yazan's mom steps in and says, "Whoa, no. He is the man. If he says you're his baby, then you say, 'Yes, I am your baby.' You don't say no." Which, wow. So thankfully, Yazan actually doesn't translate that part directly to Brittany and just says, she says, "You should be nicer to me."
Right.
But at this point, Dad is getting very fed up with Brittany's reluctance and says that if she's not all in with converting and acting like they want her to act, then they should just cancel everything. And at this point, Yazan's mom just starts screaming at her in Arabic, like really loud and just really fast. And Brittany has no idea what's going on. She starts, a tear rolls down her cheek. She loses the plot until she just leaves. So, wow.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. I mean,
I don't even think everybody was on the same page. That was the other
no,
thing.
I don't think we all expected it to be a train wreck, right? But I don't think anybody expected that, especially that mom coming out of, she just come out of the rafters, like out of nowhere.
Especially if you're kind of thinking about the women as being like more subdued and submissive. She went on the attack.
Right.
I wouldn't have expected that coming from someone who
wouldn't refuse to be on camera, because she was like, no, women are supposed to be so unseen that I'm not even going to be on camera.
Right.
To come out and take over, and I mean, just psycho screaming at her.
Right. But I feel like her parents were both kind of focusing in on two different parts of the same problem. Like, at the end of the day, the problem is that Brittany is not going to be Muslim and that she's not going to really follow their culture. That's like really the problem at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. What I thought was weird was how the dad was going on about social media. You're going to continue your social media and look like a prostitute and, you know, look like this single person. And all of a sudden he like throws out social media from out of nowhere.
Right.
And then his mom was like focusing in on you're not respecting my son. Mm-hmm. You need to be quiet. You need to treat him with respect, and, you know, going at her over that. Oh, and then why are you making us wait to have kids? That was the other thing that like seemed to come out of nowhere. You're going to make us wait 5 years because you keep on having an excuse every single time.
Right. Well, I thought that was the wedding. Like, it seemed to me that their question was, is she going to come over here? And is she going to completely and totally assimilate to our culture? Nothing else can be tolerated, right?
Right.
A 100 complete, you know, give in to our culture. She gets nothing from her culture, 100% buy into our culture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they definitely have that mentality, for sure.
And the way they were testing that, their test for that, when she came over, because they weren't sure she was going to do that, their test was, will she agree to get married immediately?
Well, the answer
is no. And so they were like, cut it off. It's done. Get this out of here. This is not acceptable. Because that was her thing. Is she seemed to be like, oh, I will give and take. I will wear hijab and I will not hug Arab men and I will treat Arab men. But if I see an American at the airport, yeah, we're going to like, I might hug them. Like, we're going to talk to each other. Like, we're both Americans because that's my culture and that's someone from my culture. So it seems like she was actually willing to give some, but she just wasn't willing to go, no, 100%. Everything you say is right. Everything I say is wrong. Let's go.
I mean, I don't know what she's been telling him behind closed doors, because, I mean, she's even said to us that she tries to change the subject. Mm-hmm. But he very clearly has the impression that she is at least open to converting.
Yeah, I think she is abstractly open to converting. I don't get the impression that she is a very strong Christian either. Right?
Oh no, I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't get the impression that she's a very religious person at all. So she's like, I'll listen to what you have to say, but don't tell me I have to do anything. Like, you can tell me you can give me your sales pitch, and if I like it, I'll buy in. But if not, then no.
But I kind of feel like she's kind of also one of those people that is stubborn, that she knows they want it so badly that she would just say no just cause.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't see her converting at all, and I mean, that means the parents are never going to accept her. And that's going to be a huge deal because Yazan is working for the family business. Their lives are incredibly intertwined, even if they're not living together.
So, but they're both doing the same thing where they're the person's saying one thing and they're hearing another thing, right? So
yeah.
She is doing exactly that. She says, well, I'm open. You can, you know, tell me all about Islam and I'm willing to listen to you. And he's hearing, I will convert to Islam. Right?
Yeah.
And he says, I'm jealous and you can't do that to an Arab man. And she heard, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, he did say that in the middle of all that, right? And she just kind of picked out what she wanted. I think the other problem with them is that they both have this thing where they know they have these major conflicts, but they keep on kicking the can down the road, like thinking, you know, like, oh, we'll just figure this out later. And I think a prime example of this is the whole hijab thing, right? So he tells her to put it on, like, when they're leaving, and she's like, no, I'm not wearing that. I'm not messing up my wig. I'm not wearing that. And then he pretty much has to convince her. She's like, okay, well, maybe I'll put it on in the car later. I'll talk about this later, right? And so she keeps on putting it on. So they're putting it off. And so they're in the car, and he's like, okay, we'll put it on now. And she's like, when we get closer to the house. You know, she keeps on, like, trying to kick the can down the road until she has to make, like, kind of a game time decision.
Right, a do or die decision,
like,
sure.
Yeah, and then she's just like, all right. But it's just like she doesn't want to give in or make those decisions now. And so I think, like, just everything that they deal with, it's just like, we don't know how we're going to resolve this. We'll figure it out when the time comes, but we're going to try to prolong that decision as long as we can.
Yeah, I mean, she just, so much of it is just so, because they just want such different things. Like, he wants her to just be like, just listen to me and shut up. And they don't, and they don't seem to like each other. That's what I don't understand either. We've only seen them together, and they both look miserable in the other person's presence.
Okay, well, we've talked about this before. It's kind of like the shotgun virginity theory, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
The fact that they slept together is a very big deal in his culture and his religion. And so to make it right, like, getting married is like the only course of action. Right,
but then they're mad at her. Right?
Yeah.
They're mad at her.
Well, she put them in that position.
But she put them in that position, and now she's not bending over backwards to fix it. So
to make him an honest man.
Yeah, to make him is like, yeah. So I'm worried. I'm worried about that. You know, I'd worry about that in any relationship. Like, thankfully, I feel like I'm old enough now that if I get into another relationship, the person's parents I won't have to worry about, like, approval from their parents as much as, like, young people do. Like, it always comes up in the show. But, like, it drives me crazy. It's a red flag when somebody's parents think they're always right. And they hear be like, yeah, they made a huge mistake. Oh, they did something wrong. You'd be like, no. You must have done something wrong to them. You must have changed them. You must have gotten your fingers into them and made them into a different person. It's like, oh no.
Describing Debbie right now.
Well, yeah, Debbie is a red flag. We know Debbie is a red flag.
Definitely. I know, enough where your ex would call the current girlfriend to
be like, listen, she is a wolf devil.
She's a wolf.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wolf demon.
Wolf demon.
Yeah. All right. Let's end on a positive note today. So Kenny and Armando. Armando is getting artsy and making Kenny a crafted frame to welcome Kenny to Mexico. He explains that Kenny has brought him lots of gifts, but Armando doesn't always have money to get Kenny what he really wants. So Armando thinks the way to go is sentimental, which he believes Kenny will appreciate. Armando is preparing the home they rented in a gated community. Armando wasn't sure how safe the area was, and they were both concerned that they could potentially be at risk for hate crimes for being gay. They have an ocean view when we find that Kenny is paying for the apartment. We get some scenes of Kenny dancing to some house music in the car, and once again looking pretty damn good for 57. Kenny is feeling some guilt about leaving his children, even though they're all grown up. Kenny summarizes the potential issues that include learning to live together, co-parenting Hannah, and living in a community that may not accept them. Okay, so I was pretty impressed with Armando making this whole craft.
Yeah, it was nice.
This was like Pinterest worthy,
Oh, definitely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, and it was definitely really cutesy and very sentimental. It was basically like a little map, a tiny little representation of Mexico, a tiny rerepresentation of Florida, and saying that their love like crosses borders.
Yeah, and then it was like a little thread connecting like Tampa with Baja. Yeah, it was yeah.
Right. It was super cutesy.
Yeah.
So what is the best thing that you've ever made for a significant other?
Did I mention the mailbox? Because I really think the mailbox is the best thing I've made.
Oh yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I did forget about the mailbox, so it's good that you brought it up again, Mr. O. Yes, that definitely qualifies.
All right, so I can do that. Yeah, I made a like mailbox. I went to Home Depot and got all the lumber and like stained the wood and made like, so it kind of looks a bit like more finished, but a bit like a shipping crate. Not a shipping crate, a pallet, that kind of look, but nicer with stained wood, and got like nice raised letters and put a mailbox on top and painted it blue, and like did that all in like an afternoon while my now ex-wife was away. So she came back and it was like all there. But now it's, even to this day, it's really easy. Like even my daughters, when they're telling people where the house is, they're like, oh, it's the house with the cool blue mailbox. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I know that house. Yeah.
Yeah. Did she really appreciate it?
Yeah.
Would she consider that one of the best gifts that you ever got her?
No, the best gift I ever got her was, I think she would say to this time, was again in the house. One time there was this bush out in front of the house that she hated. And like what she unwrapped was like a pickaxe and a digging bar.
Oh, shush.
And she was like, what is this? I was like, I'm taking out the bush. And she was like, what? She's like, I'm taking out the bush this afternoon. And I did. And she was like, that was the greatest thing. Because it was one of those things I had been putting off for a long time. She's like, the bush is gone. Thank God.
Oh my gosh. I get why you and your ex-wife were married. That's so like you. And the fact that she would appreciate that.
Yes.
So like the both of you. That's too funny. All right. So that pretty much wraps up our 2 episodes for the week. So who was your student of the week?
See, I think you're going to disagree. I went with Devin.
Okay. Why would I disagree with that?
Because you didn't like, you said, because I thought that she did the right thing, being like, I think I'm done here, and cutting it off and things. And you're like, I think they should be together. So that was a little different. But no, I liked, she was straightforward, right? Mm-hmm. She was and she didn't buy into his crap anymore. Because he's been doing that, I'm sorry. It's like, well, how many times are you going to be sorry? Like,
right, exactly.
At some point, that doesn't mean anything anymore.
It's funny that he knows that real well in English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with Devin, anything that she's done or that she could potentially do, right? Mm-hmm. If she decided to leave him, I wouldn't blame her.
Right. But
I thought the question was originally like, do I think they should be together or not? Mm-hmm. Or do I think they'll get back together or not? I feel like they're one of those couples that because they have the kid, she's always going to feel somewhat guilty about, breaking up the family. Uh-huh. And I feel like that's part of the reason that's going to keep her giving him more chances. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just don't know. It's a tough decision.
The thing was, there was a little bit of a spoiler at the very beginning of the season. The first episode was like her in Korea when COVID started. So like that was in like February, March, right? And most of his stuff was filmed way before that.
Yeah. And we can assume that she's probably still there now because it's probably not so easy to come back.
I think it's easy to come back. I think it's really hard to get there now. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure. Now it goes the other way. Americans can't go anywhere.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Goodness. Okay. So my student of the week I had was Kenny. Or sorry, not Kenny. Armando.
Yeah.
Yes, I said
Kenny was good too.
Armando.
It's refreshing. It is kind of refreshing to have just two.
A nice couple.
If Kenny doesn't react like really well to that gift, then he's off my list. He's done. He's going to.
I have faith in these people. He's going to. But yeah, Armando, like how sweet is that? Like I don't have a lot of money. I'm going to, make something sentimental. I'm going to make something that's meaningful, something that we can remember like these firsts with. Mm-hmm. And it's just super sweet. It's like you always want to have like a thoughtful partner like that. Right. Good job, Armando, for being a thoughtful partner. So student of the week, Armando.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Although I did question his hot glue gun skills.
Yeah, it was a big hot glue gun. Like the crafting ones are smaller.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and the other thing is too, when you're gluing paper to paper, you shouldn't be using a hot glue gun. Now the thread, absolutely, you should use the hot glue gun for that. Because when you start getting like other like non-paper materials.
Now what you get when you do the hot glue gun paper to paper is you can kind of put like a dab of glue and you get a little bit of a relief. So the paper's not right on the paper. It's like raised up a little bit. Yeah. If you're going for that might help. But
I don't know if that's what he was really going for because it was kind of like flattened at the end. The only thing that was really raised was the thread piece because then he smashed it into the frame too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it wasn't like, what do they call those? The shadow box frames? It wasn't like that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So what about your dunce?
Yazan's mom. Like,
oh, goodness.
especially because at some point, it's culturally, Jordan is not the most conservative Muslim nation. Those are conservative people for Jordan, I think. Right? It's one of the more progressive Muslim nations. So I don't think this is this is what Jordan is like. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's as conservative as they are. Is it more conservative than here? Probably yes. Is it as conservative as they are? Probably not. But for someone so conservative that they wouldn't even want to show up on the camera to then just come out of nowhere and be screaming at this poor girl for not submitting completely to everyone else's will. Like, nah, I'm not. I can't even bridge the cultural gap with that one. That's terrible.
Right. Okay. So my dunce was the Swelu. If anything, for this little tidbit, when Kalani was talking about how Swelu had taken her on a wild goose chase. Oh, I'm here. Oh, no, I lied. I'm here. Oh, no, I lied. She's like, well, I'm not going to drive around, like, going to pick you up. Oh, okay, then I will now tell you where I really... What the fuck kind of games is that? That is bullshit. So that and just acting like a child and with the whole party situation, it's like, suck it up. That's like worst dad of the year material there.
Where's dad for my birthday party? Oh, sulking in the room. Sulking in your bed in his bedroom, playing video games. Like, come on. What? Come on, man. Yeah. I did laugh. You had the captions on, I assume. Kalani opened the door to go find him, and it was like, it just said like gunshot video game gunshots.
Yes. Definitely. Oh,
like, I don't think he had any clothes on when she came in there. It was rough.
Well, definitely. And because, there's always that question of how staged is this? Is this like some dramatic interpretation? Is this like bad editing? To me, it's always kind of like telling when production isn't allowed to be there, right?
Right.
So the fact that she's mic'd up and goes into the room, there's no camera in there, and like he's just talking to her like that, it's kind of like, to me, that's less likely to be staged because he's not in on it.
Right. Yep, I hear you. Yeah. All right, so life lessons.
Yes.
All right, my life lesson is, it's aimed at a few different people, but I think it's a common theme, and it came up a lot here. Just because you're speaking softly doesn't mean you're not being an asshole.
God,
I was directly at Janice, Ari's mom, this time, because she if you listen to her tone, she sounded it. And then, of course, what's his face? Andrei did that. Andrei did that on purpose. Did that.
Yes,
and that's
that was
creepy. And that's basically Colt's entire being, is calmly being an asshole, like a total asshole. It's like, just because you're not yelling doesn't mean you're not being a jerk.
That is true, because I kind of feel like that was his kind of whole thing when he would argue with Larissa, is because Larissa would get all fiery. And he would just be like, I'm being calm. I don't know why you're like flying off the handle and out of control. And it's just like, that doesn't make you any less of an asshole.
Exactly. All right, your life lesson?
My life lesson is loneliness is the worst reason to go back to an ex. It's called a breakup because it's broken, and loneliness isn't going to change any of the things that were broken in your relationship. And that was inspired by Larissa.
But you can't cuddle with loneliness.
Yeah, but I cannot believe that was her motivation. It wasn't like, oh, Eric was so great, and, we were so great together, and, I messed up. I broke up with him, and maybe I should have, been a little bit more. It was nothing like that. Lonely. I'm lonely. Who's available? Oh, my ex. My ex is still single. I've hooked up with him before, so clearly he's attractive. I'm going to try that avenue.
Yeah. I mean, especially to commit to a whole other relationship. Like, I could get, if she was like horny and be like, listen, we've done it before.
Sure.
Let's just do it again. Let's hook up. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, no, loneliness. I want to be in a relationship. I want someone to treat me well. So let me look for anyone. Okay. Yeah. Eric.
Closest. It's like you're drowning, and it's just like the closest available thing to grab onto. Got it.
God. Yeah. I mean, that's just the worst reason to get back with an ex.
Yeah.
So,
It's just, well, who's the one person you know is not going to say no to you? It's like the in case of emergency. That's what she's keeping around for.
Right. And I feel like maybe this is a life lesson that may speak to some people listening to this in pandemic and quarantine times.
Right.
Because I kind of feel like that's definitely one of those things where I'll say guilty. I've definitely had thoughts about like what if situations with exes, and it's because it's like you've had these moments of like, well, you know, maybe I wouldn't be here by myself right now if like things had worked out with this person. It's just like, but then I think about it, I'm like, no, there's a reason why I'm not with that person. That person was a huge dick.
Right. And then you'd be
like,
stuck in the house with them all the time.
Oh yeah, that situation. But it's easy to kind of like, you know, let your mind kind of wonder and have euphoric recall when there's like, you know, like loneliness involved. So
Right. All right. So that wraps up this episode.
yes, it does.
So we'll be back.
So we will be back next week with a couple of things.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have Love After Lockup. The season premiere is this Friday.
Yes. Looks.
I'm so excited for it.
such
We have to figure out
trash.
what day we're going to record for that.
Yeah. We
I don't
do.
want to be too late.
Right.
But at the same time, we want to enjoy our weekend. That one's always a tricky one because
Because it's on Fridays. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. It'll be on sometime.
At some point the following week, yes.
Yeah, sometime. And then we'll release again next week, same time, for Happily Ever After. That's on Sunday, and The Other Way, which is on Monday.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, we'll see everybody then.
Okay, until then.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
Good.